Coming up on OTH, Raymond and I are talking about patch 11.17 preview with all of the champion nerfs, champion buffs, item nerfs, and item buffs going on, as well as talking about LCS content before jumping into the LCS Championship playoffs with the 4 matches that happened last week and the 4 matches that are coming up this week. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome everybody to episode 26 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host Chris, aka the first time voter, because I've only ever voted once in the presidential election. And that's all. Just a little and it was the last one, thankfully. And I think I made a difference personally. My particular vote spun the favor a particular direction.
Yeah? Were you not old enough in the last one, or just like...
And no, I was just lazy as fuck.
That's fair.
And didn't think it mattered.
Yeah.
And then it did matter.
Well,
maybe.
I think California still voted for the person who lost, so...
Yes, nothing that I could do. But this time, I carried the vote.
I believe you.
Just letting you know.
Hey, we have an election next month too, right? For the state.
Yeah, I just got the ballot in today.
Right,
yeah,
good,
and
good,
I was
good,
like,
good.
oh yeah. But if anything, I'm just glad that we can vote. I think that we're voting on some stupid shit, but at least we can vote.
True. Very true. Very true.
But anyways, joining me on this episode of the On the Hunt podcast with co-host Chris is also co-host Raymond. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just been chilling. Feels like last week or so. Still got a lot of work stuff going on, but been chilling in the off time. Not a lot of League. I've been playing more like Civ last week. There's a new game that came out today. It's called Humankind. That's like a Civ game, but it's supposed to be like, it's modernized and stuff like that. Just a different take on it. A whole bunch of systems going on. So I'm gonna try that out after we finish recording this. But I've been hard on that grind of random strategic historical games.
What is that on? Is that on Steam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been checking out some other games myself. I mean, not actually playing them, but I feel like there's so many other games that people I know are playing. Like I think there's one called like Trials of Midgard.
Oh,
there's another one. I still got a couple of friends who played that Eternal Return Black Survival, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, it looks kind of cool, but it looks like it has a kind of a big learning curve as well. But it looks cool. I think that's pretty much it. I think there was another one like right before that a lot of people were playing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of games are coming out lately, and then I got a couple of friends waiting on some other Korean game called Lost Ark. And so
okay.
I guess a lot of people are talking about that as well, for like a North American release.
Okay.
But yeah, not much League of Legends myself, to be honest.
Yeah, kind of same too. I think I played more this week than I did the week before. But still not that much at the end of it all.
All right, that's fair. Well, we're here to talk some League of Legends. And coming right off the bat, we have the patch 11.17 preview coming out on Twitter. Right off the bat, we have system nerfs, which are pretty much some of their biggest nerfs to the items. So we have Divine Sunderer, Serpent's Fang, and Wit's End all getting some pretty hefty nerfs, I think. Enough for us to like stop here and discuss it really quick. So I think that I'm really glad to see Wit's End getting a nerf. There's been a couple of things this season where like I feel like it goes on for like a patch too long of being OP, or like it's a known OP for like over a month or 2 patch cycles. And like I think that like Lucidity Boots was like that. I think probably Gale Force was OP for too long. I think Prowler's Claw was OP for too long. Well, not OP, but like it was pretty OP. And then, of course, there's other like heinous examples as well. Like Stride Breaker it was probably too good for like 3 months.
Yeah, that's true.
And needed to be nerfed like way sooner,
Even
which is kind of weird.
Before that too, like
yeah, exactly. Which at the same time, it's kind of weird that like it's weird that the game does change so fast, because I think I was listening to something on like a Thorin's YouTube channel about like how other games, like let's say Counter Strike or StarCraft, they don't change as frequently, or like the fundamentals don't change. It, if they change very little, if at all. And like a game like League of Legends, it's so weird because it's more about practicing what's OP now, and there's not much incentive to practice what's unknown, because what if it isn't good, or what if it's not worth the time, when you should be practicing to use what is known to be good on the patch, and just practice to be better at the other people who are playing the same stuff or something like that, rather than trying to discover what else is OP. And so, um, well, Wits End was one of them. A lot of AD carries were building Wits End. A lot of other just auto attack based people were building Wits End.
Yeah.
It just gave a lot of AD alongside the being a nice choice for MR, as well as doing some decent on hit damage actually. So I don't want to talk about the specific numbers getting hit, but I'm glad to see Wits End getting nerfed. And then I guess I am a little surprised to see Divine Sunderer nerfed again, because I think it received something in the past, and then it's just another 5 AD knocked off of it. And then I am surprised to see Serpent's Fang get its lethality nerfed by kind of like a significant margin, like a 33% nerf from 18 to 12. So that's all I have to say on this section. Do you have anything to chime in about all of that?
Yeah, I think I'll skim over your the little rant you went on there right now, but yeah, I think I'm with you on the hits to these items. I think I mean Wits End I think definitely deserved it. I think it's a good choice that they're hitting like it's early on hit damage instead of the other kind of niche parts of it. Seems like a lot of champs were building it like because I mean you could build it because like oh yeah it's nice to have the MR against whatever the enemy team is stuff like that. But then at the same time it was just like often if you're a champ that you can abuse on hits like Kog'Maw or like we seen like even like Akshans or like Lucians, stuff like that that can abuse the on hit. Uh, we're just going it because it's a super efficient damage item, and I don't feel like that's kind of what it should have been. Like it's nice to have the on hit damage, but it should be the a rush as like a top DPS item. Otherwise, Divine Sunder, I think it's fine hitting that with some nerfs, like even yeah, just AD. I think like that feels. It still pisses me off to see that on Ezreal. I feel like that's just it's like the lame choice of you're picking it because you want to be like tankier, but also at the same time it does the most damage. Like I feel like that's not it's not the same as like when people had you could go Iceborne, you know, like that's not the same trade-off. It's just like most often the best Sheen item because it does the most damage and makes you tanky and gives you healing and is tank
Yeah.
shred. Like it's crazy. So I like that they're hitting like its base damage so that you're it's not as OP in everything it does. And then Serpent's Fang, I think I'm actually not surprised that they're hitting it. I think taking off its lethality is pretty good too. For a lot of the same reason, it's got a really powerful like unique effect with the shield break, and I think that that's good that they're making sure that that's the reason you're buying it rather than it just being a cheap, efficient lethality item. And it should be more like, oh, I need this because they have Lulus or Jannas or Orianas or Scion or whatever, and it's a good value for that reason.
Yep. I agree with you on all of those points. And then coming in for system buffs, we have a buff to Fleet Footwork, Hullbreaker, and Yomu's Ghostblade. We've got a little bit of a change there. I want to start with Hullbreaker. I'm pretty sure this is one of the like least built items, with like less than 1% people make this item. It's the split pushing one.
Yeah,
So it's interesting that they give it this kind of buff of just like an extra 100 HP. Ghostblade, there it looks like they're gonna add ability haste back to the item, which it used to have prior to this season. And I looked it up just now. There hasn't been any changes at all to Ghostblade ever since they implemented it in the preseason last year. So it's probably been like 10 months since this item has even been looked at. And I've been pretty sad this entire season as like low key a Jace abuser and like a lethality ARAM abuser, that it didn't have the cooldown reduction anymore or ability haste now. And so
yeah,
they're bringing that back to it. And then I was also thinking that it's kind of expensive, and I believe they are reducing its cost here from 3,000 to 2,900. And so overall, I'm happy to see the changes to the build order so that you can make it so that it has ability haste now once again, and that's going to go really well in hand with Duskblade.
Yeah, I think that's a really good change too. Like that feels that part of I feel like the reason that Serpent's Fang is getting hit is because like it being like a really cheap efficient thing, a lot of assassins or lethality users were just like slotting it in as a, oh, well, that's my default lethality item if I need a lethality item. And like historically I feel like that has been Yomu's, where, you know, not everybody even uses, like you're saying, like Jace, not everybody always uses the move speed passive, like, or active, like that's not the main draw of it always. It's just been like, yeah, I need lethality. It goes ADN, ability haste, all like pretty value stats. That's a good like default to go back to, I think, if they bring it back.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you brought that up because going back to my TFT days a couple months ago, they had like this weird problem of like when they would nerf one thing that was OP, they would also overbuff something else that just we don't even know if it's good or not. It just no one is using it. And so I wonder if this is going to be a thing where like because they nerf Serpent's Fang, but they're also buffing Ghostblade. So Ghostblade is going to be the next default second item lethality item, and then like now Ghostblade is going to be too good because it's not listed here, but I'm pretty sure it still gives all like the passive out of combat move speed, and then like you said, there's still the active as well. So there's going to be people like all the dirty Zed players and whatnot who are they're just gonna be glad that Ghostblade is better than before, and it's gonna fit all of the stats that they wanted in their second lethality item as well. So I wonder if that's gonna be the case here.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
then like two patches from now, like Ghostblade gets nerfed because they happen to overdo it, or like it was good enough, but the play rate is so much higher.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I'm also happy to see a fleet footwork buff because it's been kind of dog water for a while, in my opinion. I think it's a little complicated how they're changing some of it, but overall, it looks like the heal is going to be a little bit more. Although they are changing how it affects melee champions, where like instead of having 100% effectiveness on minions, it's only going to be 20% for melee champions. So I don't know why they're nerfing that so hard, but I
Honestly,
guess it's for people like Cassidon or something.
yeah, I think it's 100% like just a Kassadin hit. I don't know. There's probably like some other,
Yeah,
like
maybe like Silas or
Akali
something.
too, right? Like
Oh
Kassadin,
yeah,
Akali, Silas, like it's all for them. Yeah, they're buffing because they buff the ratios on it a little bit, and the base heal. I think all that's like pretty solid hits, and then yeah, just making it so that you can't use it as effectively on melees or on minions in general is pretty good. I think, especially for those champs that would like otherwise really heavily abuse it, right, with a higher AP ratio and just being able to hit minions to make it through lane.
yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think I've ever really utilized fleet footwork for like what it was, because I feel like when I used to use footwork, like maybe like 2 years ago, I would only use it because it like charged up your static shiv stacks and your storm razor stacks like just a little faster. So that's why I would take fleet footwork. But
Did
like I
did it
don't think
even do
there's ever
that?
been a time.
Are you
I
sure?
thought it did.
I think
I
that
thought
was
it's all
just what
like
Rapid Fire
energized.
did. Well, they all are energized, but I think they all shared the same stacks, except if you got Rapid Fire. That I think that was the thing about Rapid Fire is it would stack things faster. You would energize faster.
Oh, maybe I'm tripping then.
I think you might be tripping,
But
dude. You might just
yeah,
be. You might just have been bad.
yeah. The end point is I what I am probably bad. I don't think I've ever like played around my fleet footwork being at 100 stacks, autoing something, using the move speed to get a trade auto that can't be traded back. I don't think I've ever done anything like that. Maybe that's why I'm hard stuck
Yeah, true.
platinum this year. But
That's why you're not a Caitlyn player or a Jhin player, obviously.
yeah.
I think
But
I am
maybe
excited about that
if
though
this comes
for,
back,
yeah, for
yeah,
some of those
I'm
ADs
excited for
like in
it.
the bot lane too, like that. I don't know if that's a major reason that we haven't seen a lot of like those kind of champs, just because Fleet has been bad. I would doubt that, but I think it'll be a good buff for champs like that that want to come back as more like scaling, sustained crits.
Yeah, I would be happy to see if there's more like late game kind of AD carries coming back. And then we probably spent too much time on just this first half of the patch preview, so I'm just gonna zoom through the
Yeah,
next
we'll roll
parts.
through it. Don't worry.
For champion nerfs, there's gonna be Graves, Irelia, Blue Cane, Leona, Viego, and Zed. And then for champion buffs, there's going to be buffs for Echo, Evelynn, Lissandra, Nami, Senna, Timo, and Zaya. And then furthermore, there's going to be some adjustments for Akshan,
Akshan.
Amumu,
Yeah.
Gangplank, and Lucian. I think there is a couple of interesting things to talk about there. What do you want to get started with?
I think I'll just hit my highlights since I'm the AD carry guy here. I'll give the Zaya and Senna buffs are both pretty good shouts. I think. It worries me that they keep tweaking like the Senna soul rate stuff, like for farming Senna and stuff. It seems like that's she kind of is oppressive when she gets a shit ton of souls, and I don't know that I want that to be a mainstay in the meta. Is like farming Senna or like any Senna that just has a shit ton of souls. But I think the Zaya buffs are pretty neat, making her Q more fluid. I don't know. I still don't know that whenever they buff the R damage, if it matters at all. But it's kind of a big buff if you actually are hitting it at level 6. But then the rest of the game, I just feel like it doesn't matter. But they're neat buffs.
Yeah, I'm just now seeing that the buff on the Zaya ulti damage, and that is pretty significant. And then for me, I'm looking at the Irelia nerf as they're reducing the heal on her Q, and then I'm also interested in the Leona nerf as well, nerfing the amount of armor and MR she's getting from her W. Because fuck that champion, honestly, it's like way too tanky sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that actually, yeah, that's pretty true. I'm down to see Leona just taken down in a little in presence.
Yeah, and then for a couple of these like champion changes, I do want to highlight the Lucian one because they're making some wild changes to it where they're changing up his passive a bit and they're also changing up his ulti a bit, to my understanding. Do you want to get into that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so the changes that they have slated is for his passive. If he gets buffed by an ally, then his next attacks deal bonus magic damage that scales off of his total AD. So he'll do like another 20% of an auto, but in magic damage when he gets buffed by any champion, which seems a little weird. I don't know. They're trying to shift him more towards the bot lane, right? Like not being just this mid lane bully against mages and other champs, which is kind of cool as someone who used to play a lot of Lucian bot. Like I'm down with it, but it is a kind of a weird. It seems like kind of heavy-handed almost in how they're moving him. And then the other changes that they're making, his ulti shots scale, like the number of shots that you take now are going to scale off of your crit chance instead of levels in the skill, which is an interesting change. I think at some point, like maybe back in like season 5 or 6 when they did some initial Lucian changes, when they moved around his E and all that kind of stuff, they changed it. I think his ulti shots used to scale off attack speed, and they got rid of
I think
that.
so too.
Yeah, they got rid of that, and so I'm like a little weirded out that they're bringing it back again because it seemed like that was a problem point, and I don't remember when they changed it, but I feel like that was something they made a point to change. So I'm almost surprised that they're bringing it back. But overall, I think it's an interesting nerf to just like the early scaling of the champion in like the mid lane again. Makes them dependent on items instead of just being like ahead in levels.
Yeah, I think I saw a video of like now you can get like you can almost double the amount of shots that Lucian can get at level 6. You can get up to like 47 or something like that
Yeah.
with like certain crit builds. So that'll be interesting. I think another one I want to point out here is they're gonna be nerfing Viego's auto attack range, which is kind of weird in my opinion. They're doing some funny changes to Amumu, where Amumu's Q is gonna hold charges of Q. And they're also standardizing the ult duration, so it's gonna be 1.5 seconds at all levels, which is kind of weird to me.
I think that's just so that you can't like Q and then ulti and then Q the same person, right? Does that seem right? Probably works out that
That
way.
probably makes sense, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, I like those changes too. I think I do really like the Viego changes they're making. Like lowering his overall like passive healing too is a big one. Like when he's stealing souls and stuff. Like I think that's like a major pain point for a lot of people. Like fuck, dude, the amount of like I swear I watched so much playoffs this week between LEC and LCS. There were like way too many just Viego 1v5, 1v4 pop offs like across
Yeah.
those leagues. Like it's disgusting what that champion does. So I'm glad he got nerfed.
Yeah, and it really feels like only Viego could have done that
Yeah.
in that situation. So it's so weird when like the game has come to that, or the game is in that kind of state,
Yeah,
and for some reason he's getting through these picks and bans. Like I don't know, it feels weird.
true, true. The other one, I think the other champion adjustment I want to shout out is the Gangplank changes too. They're like, these are, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it again next week when it hits actual patches, but they're changing his Q so that it counts as a ranged attack, which means they're fucking with his grasp, harass, right? And then also they're moving his like E to being more of a crit skill and giving him more charges that he can stack up. Like all that seems like pretty nuts to me. I don't know. Like I know people don't really go crit Gangplank right now, but I'm surprised that they're like putting this much buff into it because I feel like it wasn't too long ago that people still like did build crit, and I'm not. I feel like he's probably not that far off that this could easily push him over an edge.
Yeah, the barrel change is kind of interesting. Like having 5 barrels, that's gonna make it easier for people who are not like usual game pink players. So because I think my problem with it is that like if you mess up one barrel combo in a team fight, you might get a second one, but you might not, depending on like the setup, I suppose. And so I think being able to hold 5 barrels, from the looks of it at max level, combined with the cooldown or ability haste that you'll get from the usual, probably like Trinity Force, or I guess people don't make that anymore.
People might go Essence Reaver though, especially with the crit bonus.
Oh, true. Yeah, that might actually be a good adjustment. But anyways, I guess people are making Derek's gauge though, so who knows. But anyways, yeah, the being able to hold 5 barrels at level 5, that's gonna be interesting for like being able to not only give leeway if you miss a barrel chain, but also just giving you the ability to do them back to back, and etc. It'll be really interesting to see if he pops off. All right, has there been any League of Legends content that you've been consuming this past week?
Not that much, honestly. I think just today I was getting a chance to listen to uh, last night's Hotline League, which was pretty interesting, actually. Just the they have Papa Smithy on as the guest, and I feel like he's usually a really interesting guy to talk to, or listen to. I don't talk to him. I'm not that cool. Um, but
But you could
they,
on Hotline League.
yeah, just like the first like 30 minutes where they were kind of just chatting with him, like a little interview. Uh, he had some pretty interesting things to talk about the this weekend's like series between 100 Thieves and EG, and it was like how how he was there as the GM of 100 Thieves and how that played out. So that was pretty cool to listen to. But other than that, I haven't been paying attention to much content.
Okay, I've actually watched a ton of stuff. I think I watched like I listened to The Dive today. I listened to the intro of Hotline League up to when people start calling. I don't want to hear that shit. I listened to the next level, the one with Jat, and then I watched the Crackdown with Jizuke, which apparently Jizuke can do like an actual real life Keck W. That's his actual laugh, and so it's 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 a pretty fun episode. I would recommend it, to just throw it on in the background, and it's kind of a useful insight as well as for his time as an NA player. And then just a lot of Travis Gafford interviews as well. So I listened to quite a bit in this past week.
Yeah, dude, actually, Loki, I feel like this was the week of like Jizuke content. Like, if you didn't know about Jizuke before, like this was like how everybody becomes Jizuke fans.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because I feel like a lot of the players nowadays, they don't stream anymore. Like I'm pretty sure FBI, he doesn't stream, and I think there's a lot of players like that, And
Well,
we'll
shit, dude.
probably
I don't
talk
want to
about
watch
this.
FBI stream. It's just gonna be covered with his fucking enlarged chat from the Z spam. I
Yeah.
don't need to see
And I was
that.
just thinking, dude, like we'll probably talk about this a little more later, but if Danny did that play that he did this past weekend, but he did it in like 2013 or 2014, dude, he would have more choices than fucking that Huan Feng guy in China.
True.
Like, I'm pretty sure he would be drowning in League of Legends um, fans, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Good save.
But anyways, um, coming up before we can talk about the LCS Championship playoffs, we can do our picks of the week.
Sure, dude. I'm gonna make you go first though.
Oh yeah, happy to go first. So my pick of the week this week is going to be Akshan and Aram, which is an absolutely busted champion, and he builds Wits End, by the way. Um, I played against I for some reason I think I played like 30 ARAM games over like the last 2 weeks, and I didn't see him
Goodness.
much. But the first time I did see Akshan was on the enemy team, and he just felt way too strong. And I noticed that like one, it's actually really easy to use his E on ARAM because it's just the walls on the sides. You grab onto them and you do this full 180-degree swing that like lets you cover distance and also like just gives you a ton of uptime on your E as well. Um, so when you max it, it just does a ton of damage. And so playing it, it gives you a little bit of practice on like how to actually use it, and it's not that bad. It's not too hard actually after you do it a couple times. And then his W is really fun on ARAM because you can perma invis if you want and just sit there like a dirty rat. His passive is really fun to mess around with, like getting used to it and like getting double autos off and then like um, procking your Kraken Slayer really quickly and then knowing that you're getting all these Wits End on hit damage as well, just having double autos. It's really satisfying, and he's just a super strong champion. And anytime that you revive somebody, it feels good, but like it's definitely broken. And like I really don't think the revive mechanic should be even enabled in ARAM. Um, if I have any problems with this champion, is that his ulti fucking sucks
True.
at all points in the game. I
Especially
don't
in
even
ARAM. Yeah, especially.
yeah, and especially in ARAM, I don't even think it's ever worth casting, nor is it ever worth like the mana. But his Q is also pretty fun. I didn't know that it extends its distance off everything. I thought it only extended on like champion hit.
Hmm.
So it's fun that you can hit like random stuff like Zyra plants, and then like you could just poke somebody when like they probably didn't mean for you to do that to them.
Yeah, I feel like even when I've played him in ARAM, like you just hit minion waves and it goes through like 4 or 5 champs just because they're standing around and don't expect an action key to go 500
Yeah.
miles.
So that's gonna be my pick of the week, the
All right,
Action
dude.
Man.
All right. I respect it. All right. My pick of the week actually is gonna be. I'm gonna pick a class, kind of. It's not a particular champion, but I'm just gonna say playing playing like multiple supports in the bottom lane, doing shit like Seraphine carry or Sona carry, and just going full degen with a whole bunch of shields. You can play. There's a lot of champs I feel like that abuse this kind of in the mid lane or in the jungle right now, like stuff like Xin or Viego or Lucian mid, stuff like that. You can really like make use of the double supports coming out of bot lane. Just the amount of carries that you can get on your top side of the map, and bring like a tank or something or a bruiser in the top, and you're GG. Like it's just so easy to walk around in balls and be super OP. I know not everybody is into playing support champs, so I get like not playing it, but at the same time, it's pretty fun when you can make it work and just like it feels pretty unfair sometimes, you know. So if you're into that thing of being very rude to your enemies, then double support's the way to go.
I like it. I mean definitely Seraphine has always been a good choice for a replacement AD carry, and then I kind of wished like just doing different combinations of like off meta bottom duos is like I think it's always fun to do, especially when you do like kill lanes and that sort of thing. I feel like there's so much unexplored potential there, for good and for bad reasons. But I feel um, there's like so much that's possible. So I support your double support endeavors.
Yeah, dude. Especially, I still haven't tried it. Have you played any or played with? I guess we both haven't played League. Have you seen any like new Sona stuff?
No, not yet.
I think I got I one of my buddies that I usually play with. Like it's been a while since he's been on, and we so like last week we played a few games. Just like he hopped on and we got some boys going, and so he was playing support with me in bot, and he was like, "Dude, what should I play? Like I haven't played this game in forever, so whatever it is, I'm probably gonna." I was like, "Dude, they just changed Sona and made her pretty OP, I think. So just play Sona." So we played only a couple games, but she still seems pretty good. We inted one pretty hard and we won one pretty hard, so seems
That's a
okay.
good balance.
Yeah.
Okay, now jumping into the world of LCS. First off, we have the newly announced as of today FTX Most Improved Player, and that's going over to Cloud9 Fudge, which I think is well deserved. I think coming on along his journey for the whole year, we I personally shit on him for his performance during the lock-in tournament back in like late January, early February, and then even I think even at the start of spring split, if I remember, I wasn't too impressed, but then he pretty much evened out for most of spring split, and then did his part in the spring playoffs, in my opinion. Really started to show his individual worth during MSI, obviously, and then at the start of summer, he was doing really well, continuing to play Lee Sin and um, even some other styles as well. Um, so as far as improvement, and then actually being able to show he can really stand up for himself, well deserved. I don't know if there's any other player that comes close to the amount of improvement that he's had over the course of his first year in LCS.
Yeah, that's I think I'm with you. I don't know. Yeah, I think same kind of thing. I don't know of a another player that would be more deserving. I do think I wonder I think it's kind of hard to tell. I know one thing that LS talked about in like in spring, especially probably around MSI when C9 was doing okay at MSI, right? Was like how a lot I think a lot of people were underrating Fudge like at the beginning. And I know Ellis is big on like the like lane management and micro of like how you play lane. And I think he would tell you that a lot of the stuff that Fudge was doing, even when he was at the beginning of LCS and looking kind of shaky overall, was still like the optimal things. Like he was doing the right things and making like minor misplays or like not respecting a jungler or something like that that would get him killed and ruin what would otherwise be like really winning states. So I wonder almost if like did he improve that much or was he just already good and like made a couple changes that turned it to like this really good position that he's in now, like where we're talking about him as an MVP candidate even on a middling team by the end of the split. Um, but yeah, I think it's pretty well deserved just that he's at least getting the recognition of having a really good year.
Yeah, I think he deserves the recognition. And then we could finally dive into the LCS Championship. This past week, we had IMT versus Dig, C9 versus Golden Guardians, EG versus 100 Thieves, and TL versus TSM. We can get started with the first two matches, which were both 3-0s, IMT versus Dignitas, kind of a stomp. Um, we might have thought that these teams were a little closer, but um, I think I don't even know if IMT came out swinging. I would say that Dignitas just came out kind of flopping, honestly.
Yeah.
A little similar to their spring playoffs performance, honestly. Not very inspiring, which I'm kind of disappointed about, given that, there's some points of the regular season we were kind of rooting for them as an underdog. So I guess I'm happy to see, IMT come out the gate the first time playing in the playoffs because they didn't play in spring, and then they didn't play in the first week of the summer playoffs. So this is the first time we see them in a best of five setting, and they do pretty well. I think they are also doing a lot more of AP picks in the bottom lane as well. I think they busted out both Ziggs and Syndra, to
Hmm.
my understanding. So it pretty cool to see them do what they want to do, and it might be a little more fun to see them next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, I think you're kind of right on. I expected this series to be a lot more competitive than it was. Yeah, I don't know. Dig I feel like Dig just has maybe they just struggle in best of fives like keeping any kind of momentum going. Like they're good at stealing best of ones, and they bring like something to the table that maybe they don't expect, or it's just the early game or something goes, like hyper in their favor. But when you're a team that you spend the whole week preparing for this one team and going over all the different scenarios, it just feels like IMT like totally had their number, and yeah, it was just like not a very close game.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Just it really goes to show how different the standings end up when you have the format be best of ones.
Yeah,
Yeah, so on Friday we had C9 versus Golden Guardians, also a 3-0. I don't know if there's much to talk about here as well. That it kind of seemed like C9 just kind of ran them over every
yeah,
game. Um, and I think if anything, we can kind of use this as a talking point for the next two series. Where like, um, I don't know. I actually don't know if C9 is good or if Golden Guardians just made C9 look good. However, I do know for sure that TL is good because
right.
I really respect the way that they played in both this weekend series and also last weekend. But um and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I know that TL is good and they made TSM look bad, but I don't know if TSM is bad.
Yeah,
Copium. But
right. Copium, yeah, big Copium. Yeah. I know.
um
I actually really agree with you. This is exactly what I was thinking watching. Yeah, the same thing. Watching the TLTSM series and knowing what happened to C9 when it was TLC9, and then seeing how C9 plays now, like this week against Golden Guardians. Obviously, like a very different opponent. I don't think I'm expecting Golden Guardians to be on TL's level, but like they, C9 looked really strong, like an upper bracket team should look against Golden Guardians, and it was an easy 3-0. So yeah, it is. I think it is really just like this series was more a telling of how good C9 or TL probably is, and the difference that they were able to uh, show between them and the other teams they faced so far.
yeah, so now we can talk about the competitive matches from this weekend.
Yeah.
We can get started here with EG versus 100 Thieves, which went to all five games. A little bit of back and forth from, I think it was 100 Thieves, then EG, back to 100 Thieves, and then a game stolen in game four, and then
Yeah.
back to 100 Thieves in game five. There's a few talking points that we can talk about here. Like we were mentioning earlier, like I think in games 1 through 4 of the EG versus 100 Thieves series, Closer played Viego in all four games, and I'm pretty sure there was moments in like a couple of the games where like
Oh yeah.
he had like triple or quadra kill comebacks that could only have been done with Viego, and they
Right.
let him play it all four games, and it was also still not banned in game five as well, which is pretty crazy. Another thing kind of worth mentioning is that for games 1 through 4, they played contracts and then brought in Svenskeren for game five, who in game five, Svenskeren is the one who played Viego. So it kind of looked like they put him in because he's more comfortable with Viego as opposed to contracts. But I think that you wanted to talk a bit more about this as well.
Yeah, I think this was like it, that's an interesting point. This was definitely one of the weirder like substitutions I felt like that we've seen out of teams that are going with, the 6 or 7 man rosters in the past. Um, like the point saying that it might have been like because they wanted Sven to play the Viego feels like kind of not. It doesn't seem right to me because I think they've had contracts play Viego like in the past. Like I think he played Viego last weekend in their series, if I'm not wrong. He probably played it. Well, I don't know that he played it during the regular season, but I'm sure he played it last weekend. Um, and then only bringing Sven in for Game Five, especially after they had just like won a game, like just feels like the wrong way to manage the situation from the team's perspective, since you're like it doesn't seem like they are doing it off of the results. Which is hard to say, like right, like they like as an outsider, you probably say, well, they shouldn't make the decisions off of just the results of the games. Like the team should probably know like what's going on in the team comms and shit like that to decide who's really the better choice. But it did feel weird to see contracts play all four of those games and even lose two of them, right? Like they were down 1-2 in the series. Game four was already a win or go home for the match at least, right? So like I don't know why you wouldn't bring Sven in for game four or just even game three or game two, like after their first loss or whatever. Like it just felt like a weird decision to keep contracts in for so long. in a pivotal moment. Like it's not. This isn't like this was last series, where it's like your first winners bracket. You know, like if you lose, you still have more to play. Like this is like that step above. Plus, this is a world spot, right? Like that's EG has so much to play for here. I don't understand why you wouldn't go all out with Sven as your starter and bring him in earlier than the game 5 after the series was already like you were already down to match point and you had just won a game. Like that felt like just a really weird situation to be in.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I think if there's any like silver linings, it's not going to be EG's last series. They're still in the tournament, just in the lower bracket now. So there's still opportunities to see both junglers. But I agree with you. It's kind of like it. At first, it felt like a why switch him out now kind of thing, and then also like I think someone else pointed out that the Viego thing to me that like okay, now that Svenskarian's finally in, they don't give over Viego. So there might be more to it. In the end, nobody knows why they're swapping junglers like this other than 100 Thieves. Or sorry, EG. But it is interesting. And then I did pay a bit more close attention to this whole match as a whole, and I really liked it. I think 100 Thieves and EG both turned out to be really good in all of the games that they won. Jizuke was doing really good, and I think he pooped on mid lane in game 2, if I remember correctly. And then of course we have to talk about Danny's insane play, Tristana gameplay in game 4 when he like buffers a Nautilus hook.
Right.
Um,
I mean, like solo
with
pentakills, basically, right?
yeah, with his rocket jump, and then just crazy like mindfulness of like hitting GP barrels in the middle of like all this chaos going on, and then life stealing off of minions, and then kind of like baiting the other two people to fight him like separately is super crazy play that lasts like over 40 seconds. But it's kind of it's nice to see that kind of stuff happening. And then like and yeah, and I think in that game 4 they were EG was down like 7 or 8k, something like that, and they end up winning that game off of Danny's play because they get Baron off of that, and then they end the game not that long after. So super crazy comeback play off of Danny in game 4. Like you were saying earlier, where like it was kind of like you're gonna go home if you don't do the crazy play right now,
Right.
kind of thing.
And then he does it. Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
that's like definitely. I mean, that has to be like play of the year, like LCS play of the year.
but
Unless
yeah,
unless
I
something
wouldn't
else
argue.
happens, right? But yeah, like just absolutely insane play from a rookie. I mean, rookie of the split, a rookie of the year, right? It makes sense. But even then, I think we talked about it. I mean, we talked about it before. You got that award about how it's probably, it probably feels weird for him to get rookie of the year. Like it's easy to slot into a team like that as an ADC, and then to come out and be like, I am the reason that we're winning this game, and I can go out on. It's not even just like, oh, it was a carry performance over the game. Like he played really consistently, he played really well, he put out a lot of damage in team fights, like stuff that FBI usually does, right? Like he won lane a lot. He did like that. That's a totally different thing than a hardcore like 1v2v5 in a pivotal like series defining kind of moment. To see a guy like that do that is just like that's just such a cool play to watch.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, I want to know if you have an opinion on this. And then they put him on Ziggs in game
Right.
5, uh, where like it's not possible to do something like that. Maybe you can be insane with the Qs, or if the game gets to that kind of state, but
Mhm.
uh, other than that, like the champion can't do the certain kind of things that he did with Tristana, which is kind of a shame. I was listening to the dive today, and I think they were saying that like it was well, it's not possible for EG to pick Tristana again because 100 Thieves had picked Aphelios super early or something like that, and
Right.
that's a favored matchup for Aphelios, and so on and so forth for many other AD matchups. So I guess it's interesting in that standpoint, but it's kind of weird that like to see that they just kind of take it away from like even the possibility of having another mid game performance like that, and then also just kind of shifting the game plan away from the bottom side of the map as well when you do give him a pick like Ziggs. So kind of a shame that like he does that in game 4, and then game 5 they bring in a different jungler and the whole game plan changes, it seems like.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't know. I think it's hard to. to say like, yeah, they just should pick him another champ. Like, I mean, like you said, I think Doublelift was mentioning the same thing on like their co-stream when it happened. Like the Aphelios pick, it's kind of unlaneable for Trist, and you just don't have the same options. I mean, it's them picking like 100 Thieves picking Aphelios really there is the same uh just banning the Trist, right? But then they get a pick that they want that they know FBI is good at, stuff like that. Um, so I get I get that. I think they probably could have still pivoted like to a different idea. I mean, it's hard to say, right? Like you see that kind of play happen and like, okay, this guy can 1v5, but there's still so many other things that should have happened, like that, even you don't go into that review and say like, "Oh, we're fine. Danny's going to 1v5 again," right? And I don't think, even if you're Danny, I don't think you want to be like, "Oh yeah, guys, just pick me Triss and I'll 1v5 again. You can do whatever shit you did that game too that led us to being, me in a 1v5 and I had to do it," right? Like you don't go into the review afterwards like wanting to do that too. So I think it's hard to say like, "Oh yeah, just replicate it." Duh. But yeah, I don't know. It is weird. I think they got themselves I don't know. The draft for that game was kind of weird. I think they were trying to flex some stuff, right? And it just ended up with maybe this wasn't what they wanted, or maybe 100 Thieves picked like something they didn't expect like in the flex, so it just ended up with more than they had given away, more than they expected probably when it happened. So I'm not too against it. I think Ziggs is like still a strong pick, and like most ADs would probably say that. So I'm sure that they were fine going into it with Ziggs. Like I don't think if I'm Danny there, I would be like, oh man, my coach sucks. My team is fucking shitlords. Like they didn't want me to do this, like go and win us the game again. Like I don't think anybody's gonna feel that way, except from the outside, which is hard to deal with. Like that's our job as fans, I guess, is just to make those assumptions. But yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about this series?
No, I don't think so. I think yeah, the main thing is like both teams looked pretty competitive. This was, the most like kind of exciting series that we saw out of it. Or most competitive series probably out of the playoffs so far, just in terms of the teams being equal to each other in skill.
Okay, and then the last series that we have to talk about from last week is TL versus TSM, where again TL just looked really insane with regards to like their power level as a team. Nothing at all like how they played in the whole summer split. They just had really strong performances in game 1, 2, and 4. Honestly, just I would say stomping TSM in in the games that they had won. My favorite highlights were Jensen just like really bullying TSM on LeBlanc in game 1, Core JJ's Bard picks in game 2, and then Sword Art having to pick Bard in game 3 and 4 as well. Like this weird priority coming out of nowhere in this series. I really enjoyed it though. I'm really excited to continue to see TL continue to play after they've smashed C9, they smashed TSM, and I'm looking forward to see like when they play 100 Thieves next week. It's like, are they going to smash 100 Thieves as well? It's like they've got this really cool story coming on where they just seem super revitalized all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Really on top of their game plans, being able to come out with really strong drafts and sticking to a play style that they really like, and everyone on their team seems really coordinated with each other as well. Like the way that people talk about Vulcan being around different parts of the map and like being able to support his teammates, like helping Fudge with crazy timings with people diving him top or helping with middle. Like I feel like Core JJ was like just really doesn't give a fuck about tactical, and he just helping out his team to like the maximum.
Yeah.
And I really like TL so far, and I'll finish out before I'll let you go. I'm a little disappointed in TSM's performance. Maybe I think they made some like weird map decisions in game 1, and then game 2 was probably unwinnable. But I'm a little disappointed that they weren't able to like show a stronger early game in game 4 as well. So
Yeah.
um, I like I was saying earlier, for sure TL is good, and TL makes TSM look bad. I don't know yet if TSM is bad, or like when TSM faces off against C9 next week, are those two teams more even?
Well,
Given that
presumably.
yeah,
Like we
TL
assume they
smashed
will,
both
right?
of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so like next week is the real indicator of like how good the teams really are. Um, I guess the lower bracket is going to show it. Also, and then I want to give a shout out to Spica's Jarvan pick in Game 4, which turned out to be fucking awful. And so, like, just watching that champion, like that, it can't exist in 2021. He needs an update, unfortunately.
I like
Uh,
that. I was trying to figure out where you go with it when you're like shout out to it because I was like, dude, it was fucking dog shit. Like, how? What are you
yeah,
shouting out? And it was like, okay, yeah, that's
no,
exactly what
it
you're
was
shouting
not
out.
good. And then
Yeah.
I'll hand the reins over to you. TL versus TSM. What were your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly with you, right? I do think TL looked really good. I think I'm probably have more of the hopium copium about TSM here. Um, I think game one looked like bad, right? Like I think TSM just lost game one. Um, they had there was hope there with the like Aurelia pick. They were doing pretty good to get it ahead. I think Hooney probably made a few like just like misplays. Like he just didn't look like as good on the Aurelia as Alfari looked like prepared to deal with it and like just not get killed over and over by it. Um, so I think that was a pretty big defining factor of that game. Like it could have snowballed and they had a decent chance at doing that. But it obviously didn't pan out. And then game two, I think game two is actually probably the most interesting game of the series for me. That one was like both teams were like just totally splitting the map. Huni was down like 70 CS like really early, but it didn't matter. Lost got like 10 plates before, like 12 minutes, and Huni was still sharing gold. So even though he was like 70 CS down, he probably was about the same items as Alfari at some point. It was like just a totally weird way for both teams to play the early game that I think was probably affected by, TL or TSM feeling like maybe they can't go toe to toe in lane after like game one. But even though it came out with TL pulling the game away, it felt a lot more like TSM just didn't want to try and play into TL's hand, and so they were doing all these kind of like weird chaos plays almost to hopefully find a like kink in TL's armor. Uh, Game three, yeah, like you said, I think the Bard pick, like the takeaway, that was pretty interesting just as a series like meta shift. But that one looked a lot more just like a standard kind of like TSM was like, fine, we'll just play kind of normal. We're not going to do crazy counter picks. We're not going to try and fuck up the whole map. We're just going to play like what you would have played like 2 weeks ago anyway. And they pulled it out. I think that's a good sign that they were able to take at least a game in a pretty normal fashion. And then game four, yeah, like you said, the Jarvan pick didn't look great. I think I don't know. I feel like the problem with Jarvan in competitive, especially against a team like TL that is gonna play probably conservative or like know what you're trying to do and not just play like directly into it, is that champ like thrives off of you not having mobility or not having backup and not having flash, right? Like you EQR and make them blow flash, right? Like you can kind of see how it's supposed to work. The champ is gonna just jump onto Syndra, jump onto Callista, and then you're supposed to have the Blanc and Aphelios just like hard engage with a shit ton of damage from pretty long range, right? Like you can't respect like as the Syndra there, if it's just Syndra, you can't respect the that engage range and damage range at all. Like you get ulted and LeBlanc's gonna WR and Aphelios is gonna like Inferno multi you and you're dead. But when you have Galio and you have Camille and Zinjao and your TL and you're not able to lock down Callista ever, Jarvan just doesn't have the same like frequency of windows to go in. And so you're never gonna not have flash. And then when you do have flash, he goes in and your team is just all there to back you up. And then you wipe the enemy team, and then they're like already 5k goal behind, and then they're never going to be able to find a engage again. And then the champ is just giga useless. Um, Plus they missed a lot of opportunities early. Like that there was that one point where like Sword Art is mid and they're trying to like 3v1 Jensen and he's got some happy feet on like a Bard flash Q and doesn't die to the gank and just walks away, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much the story of the series. Like Jensen's ready, he's not going to die, and then the game is over because you've wasted so much time and effort into this gank with useless characters.
Yep, that was probably too much. too much attention that the Jarvan deserved. I think another thing that I think media or Sneaky pointed out is that like the way that Jarvan's damage is laid out, just like in his EQ, it's like honestly, first of all, it's not easy to hit, and then secondly, that's it. That's his damage.
Yeah.
Like the EQ is the damage. I mean, obviously his ulti does damage as well, but just like in a standard skirmish or something like that. Like first of all, you have to hit it, and then and it's your gap closer, and then secondly, like and then that's it. And then
Yeah.
you auto
Those are all
ulti
your
auto,
abilities.
and that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, you use
you're
W and you get like a pitiful shield, and then
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, so he doesn't match up to 2021, unfortunately, and season 11 as well. Not the same way that Jin Zhao has kind of grown into it,
Yeah.
um, and that sort of thing. Like of all of like the older champions like Udyr and Jin Zhao who have like suddenly thrived in this season, like Jarvan's not them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anything else for TL versus TSM?
No, I don't think so. I think I talked my head off about it.
Alrighty. Next up, coming up next week on Thursday, we've got EG versus C9, which I'm definitely looking forward to. We could just pause there, talk about that for a little bit. I mean, excited to see EG play two series so far. C9 has played two series so far, and so really happy to see both of them have really strong opponents to match up against. We'll see if C9 can bounce. C9 can use their forward momentum from being Golden Guardians, and if EG can bounce off the ground to beat C9 as well, and then move on to it further into the gauntlet, so to speak. I'm really excited to see these two teams match up.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. I think this is. I'm almost surprised to see this as early in the tournament. I guess as it is. Like this wouldn't have been a lower bracket match. I think that if you told me it was going to happen this week, I don't think I would have expected it to be a lower bracket match. With the way these teams both were playing towards the end of the split, and just like other general matchup stuff. But yeah, it should be exciting. They're definitely pretty explosive teams. Uh, I don't I don't know that I don't know who I expect to win. Honestly, I feel like the way a lot of the team is played, I think it should be EG. I feel like Jizuke is probably just looking stronger than Perks, and that's a big point for both teams to have like that mid lane advantage. So we'll see how it goes though. It should be exciting.
Yeah, I think that is a really interesting matchup to point out that Perks has kind of had a rough time during the playoffs, and while Dazuke has been, I think he's been on and off as well, but he's certainly had his on games, and so I'll be happy to see him match up against Perks. I think another thing, just another crazy thing to think about is this is a fight for a world spot in the end. So out of EG and C9, a lot of people have been talking about wanting to see EG go to Worlds, and there's also the storyline that C9 didn't make Worlds last year, and here they are in a similar situation here in summer. They've got some tough opponents to run through, and their run could be stopped here for both C9 and EG. So it's really unfortunate that it actually seems like there's a lot of candidates for that can match for second and third place in an A, and then there's only with the way that the format is like there's only one slot left, and it's up to like a bunch of contenders that are remaining, and EG and C9. We'll see which one is out of contention after Thursday.
Yeah, I think it is a really good point. I think week 9, if you'd asked me at the end like who's going to be the three world's representatives, I would have probably picked TSM, C9, EG, and now they're all three in the lower bracket. So it's only going to be one. I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah, and then speaking of TSM, they're playing on Friday versus Immortals. I have no idea what to think about this match. Like I was saying, like I don't know if there's something that TSM has to get together. One thing I'm just reminded of now is like I was really disappointed in Loss's gameplay in the TL series. So I'm wondering to see like if they have any kind of like shift in their game plan for versus their games versus IMT. And I'm also just excited to see what IMT can come prepared for TSM as well, and if they can show anything any play through topside with Revenge, or if they're going to decide to play through middle as well. But I think bottom lane is probably going to be more of a snooze fest, um, in my estimation. If they just continue to have Lost kind of play like a split map kind of gameplay of like we'll leave him alone and then eventually we'll just lane swap and have him get more gold some other way. Um, so I do think this one will probably be a lot more top focused for both teams. I know definitely they've TSM has had success with Humini, and Revenge has had some pop off games in the past, and so I wonder if he's been calling for a lot more resources lately. But other than that, I'm not really too sure what to think of this series, and I would feel embarrassed if I predict TSM, but then like I honestly don't know. So I would say after this Friday's game, I'll have a better gauge of like where TSM is actually at because TL ran them over, and I don't know what to think right now.
Yeah, that's kind of true. I think I already gave my reasons that I wasn't feeling that bad after the loss to TL. But I do the more I think about it now, the more I kind of see IMT and TSM kind of playing the same way a lot of the time. Um, both teams have pretty dynamic top laners that can be played around that like are often picking like for advantageous matchups and like later on split pushing and stuff like that. Both of those players are known for it. They both got pretty good junglers. I probably would give the edge to Spica like in most situations, but I do think Xerxes is a pretty good jungler. And he shows off some like interesting picks. You know, like I think they played Zach last week, right, or the week before. Um, or well, they didn't play the week before.
I
So
think they did play Zach, yeah.
yeah, so I think they played Zach. You know, they've got some picks up their sleeve. And then like in the mid lane, I do think both like same kind of thing. I think both are really like good, consistent players. I think Insanity is actually really good. And probably not as good as Power of Evil, you know. So same kind of thing. I think a lot of the way they play is probably pretty similar. Like Insanity's a control mage guy. You know, he played like the AP Kog'Maw and stuff. He's played like Victor games. Probably plays a little more Lucian than PoE does, but I feel like they've got a lot of the same tendencies. But I would give an edge in a lot of places to TSM. And then in the bot lane, I don't know. They're both. I think Immortals is more likely to play weird shit, but I think that's gonna work out worse for them. You know, like they played like the Dravens a lot this split. Like Raze is kind of a Draven player, but I don't know if I like that, especially if you're feeling like they're the weak side of the map and he's picking Draven a lot. Like that can screw like how the rest of the team wants to play. You know, if you should be playing through Revenge, if that's a good angle, and then Draven's demanding all this resources, and you know even if he gets ahead, if he just plays like lost it in game two or whatever, where he has 10 plates and a 4,000 gold lead, but then is still kind of useless. Like that, I feel like that same kind of thing can happen to Raze. And maybe both bot lanes are just going to be trying to out throw each other.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to say about like first place TSM and seventh place IMT, but
Right.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I do think though, I would feel pretty good about TSM going into this match. Um, like as the team, like I think the TL series is probably like the hardest series you're gonna have, right? Like in terms
Yeah,
of just like your straight matchup. So that's your first series. You get kind of unlucky that you play against TL then, but at the same time, now you've had the week of like that was the stressful series. You go in, you're now playing the lowest rated team still in the tournament, right? The seventh place seed. Uh, Talk about reward for being your first place seed, right? Now when you're in the losers, you're playing the worst team finally. Um, so I think those are good things for them. And if you can take a good take, if you have a good series here going into next, or I guess it'll just be Sunday against EG or C9, like that's a good confidence boost and like reminds you like, yeah, we're still a number one seed. Like we can play this game and still take like have dominant performances. So hopefully for them, that's what this is a powerful statement series.
yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how TSM comes out after that TL series. And then speaking of TL, they're matching up against 100 Thieves on Saturday. And I'm really excited for this matchup because reflecting back on the 100 Thieves series, I think I think their solo lanes were playing pretty solid. I said earlier like Abadage got kind of spit on in game two, but other than that, Someday was really holding up against Impact. Where Impact played Jace for like a couple of games and like he really could not push an advantage against Someday. It looked like. So it seems like he's doing really good form in this playoffs, and then um, Huhi and FBI were showing their worth as well in the EG series. So I'm really excited just for 100 Thieves strength and, give them a crack at the powerhouse that TL is right now. And yeah, just a shout out to the solo lanes on TL as well. Alfari has been playing super well. Jensen has had really strong performances that kind of reminds you like, did you forget?
Yeah, did you forget
This
about
is a
Jensen?
legendary player, yeah, in the LCS, and so maybe he didn't have it on in the regular split, but this is what a superstar looks like. This is what perks should look like,
True,
honestly.
true. Yeah, this has definitely been a really good playoffs in the last few weeks for Jensen. I agree with you on that one. Yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, I think if TL just continues playing like this, in comparison to the other teams, like if they're not making improvements, it's TL's tournament to lose at this point.
Yeah, I would also call it in TL's favor here, but other than that, I'm super excited to see how these teams decide to match up against each other. I'm not. I have no predictions for how the junglers are going to play, but I think last weekend Closer definitely had a good series, and Santorin has definitely come back strong out of it, off of his break, and so um, both teams have been playing with their or both junglers have been playing with their team super well. So I'm really excited to see these teams match up top to bottom, and we'll see which of the supports can roam harder than the other.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Santorin got Player of the Series too. I feel like if I had to pick, I think Santorin has the jungle edge, IMO, just because I feel like he's always been that guy that's like a pretty stable kind of player, and I think he plays stuff that works to shut down the enemy jungler too, right? Like the old odd one quote about like playing Nunu in the jungle, like you're not you're not always trying to play to like be more useful than the other player, but you're trying to make him as useless as you, right? Like that was like the old school like season 3 Nunu jungle style. Like I feel like that's Santorin doesn't play to be useless, but he does play to like really nullify the strengths of the enemy jungler. And I think that like when you're a team like 100 Thieves that has had a lot of a lot of your success like based around closer success, especially during the regular season. I think that having somebody who can play to like really nullify that, like I mean, even like we saw against TSM, like we talk about Spica, like a likely MVP candidate because he's been so good at a jungle, and Santorin, got Player of the Series because what did Spica do? He made him pick Jarvan because he thought, damn, the only way I'm going to be useful is just throwing my body at the enemy team and hoping that we can kill Jensen.
That's funny you put it that way. Anything else for 100 Thieves versus TL?
Nah, I don't think so. Good.
Okay, and then lastly, the Sunday match is going to be between the winner of Thursday's match, EG versus C9, going up against the winner of Friday's match, TSM versus IMT, and the Sunday match is going to be the decider for the third and last world spot coming out of NA. And I guess we can use that as a segue to our next topic, which is going to be the 5 teams that have qualified for Worlds so far. And so, coming out of NA, both TL and 100 Thieves both qualified for Worlds contention, given that the lowest that they can possibly place now is third place. Just the way that the tournament is structured. So, top 3 placements from the LCS Championship playoffs get to go to the World Championship in Shanghai, China, I believe. And so, congratulations to the two of them for winning their upper bracket series. And then coming out of Europe, I um, there's also another 2 teams there. First place Rogue and next up Mad Lions, both qualified for the World's qualifier. Notably, Mad Lions have beat G2 in the playoffs again, which is reminiscent of their spring playoffs run as well. And then back in the spring finals, it was Rogue matching up against Mad Lions. So we'll see if those teams match up or meet each other again coming up soon. So it looks pretty exciting on the LEC side over there, and kind of interesting how like we have this narrative in NA where like the legacy teams of like C9, TSM are like struggling in the lower bracket. It's kind of the same over there where they have G2 and Fnatic in the lower bracket, like kind of fighting for the third and final spot. Where they have like some bright points, like a lot of people are rooting for Fnatic with their rookie top laner Blippo jungle, and Upset and Hillisang, like they and Niski, like they've got great players in both teams, and of course, everybody wants to root for G2,
Right.
for one reason or another. But in the end, like only one of those teams is gonna have a spot for Worlds, because LEC only gets 3 this year and not 4. And then the fifth and last team that has qualified for Worlds so far is going to be Damwon out of LCK. I don't know why they've already qualified, but they have, and that's all I have to say.
Yeah, actually, I don't know how all of the LCK qualifying works. I know, don't they have they go off of some
Yeah,
kind of
because I'm pretty
points, right?
sure
And
like they're
then their tournament, their playoffs is like a bracket, or not even a bracket, isn't their playoffs like a gauntlet kind of thing? I don't actually know.
I know. I think they to answer your question, I think they are. It is a bracket now. There's no funky business of like first place goes straight to the finals
Oh,
or anything
okay.
like
Thank
that.
goodness.
So it's not like
Okay.
that anymore. They are changing that this split. But like I'm pretty sure the regular season wasn't even over for them until like yesterday. So I'm a little confused about
Oh.
like how did they qualify already?
I think they
So
probably do. I think then that they probably win off of like some kind of championship points still, like based off their spring split season placing, and then I think they still do a gauntlet after this though. Like so the only like the winner of summer will go to Worlds, and then or like it'll be second place if it's Damwon, and then I think they do a regional qualifier after that of everybody who hasn't qualified.
I see. Yeah, and because they do need to fill 4 spots for their worlds qualifiers.
That's true too, yeah.
Okay, that's going to be it for episode 26 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you're listening to us on if you haven't already subscribed. We'd appreciate it if you would also give us a rating or hit the like button to show us some support. You can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. We'll see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.